Hello everyone, welcome to our workshop. We're teaching our composition confidence workshop today.
We are so excited. So funny story, we did this workshop on Monday. Let us know if you were there, by the way, because if you were one of the lucky few people who got in. We were using a different streaming service and we maxed out the number of people who could join, which is why we're offering it again today. So we're excited to be doing this a second time, and hopefully a lot more of you guys can join in today. So let us know where you're joining in from. We see a lot of people coming in. Awesome. Okay.
So we have up here on the slide, we had a little pre-work assignment, and so some of you might have gotten this, and if you didn't, you can quickly do this now if you'd like, or you can just sit back and relax and watch. But we asked our students to write this phrase: every choice opens up a world of possibilities. And we asked people to send it to us, so we're going to be showing some examples in this presentation of the work that we received.
I also recommend having a notepad and a pen nearby just in case you want to take some notes, because we have lots to cover today and we're hoping to give you some great ideas to walk away with.
Okay, so again, this is our free workshop, Composition Confidence, and we are going to get started. So we would love to know, which one of these describes you? A, you are ready to turn your calligraphy practice pages into compositions. B, you've tried making compositions, but you want more creative ideas to try. Or C, your compositions don't look quite right and you want to improve them. So let us know in the comments which of these best describes you. We would love to hear where you're at.
And by the way, no matter which one of these you are, you're going to learn a lot in today's workshop.
Yes, and all of these, you're in the right place if any of these describe you.
Okay, so while you guys are answering that, we'll tell you a little bit about ourselves. So we are Jillian and Jordan. We are the founders and the calligraphy teachers at Loveleigh Loops. And a fun fact, we took our very first calligraphy class when we were kids, so we were 11 years old. And since 2017, we've been teaching online calligraphy courses. Okay, I see lots of answers for the poll coming in. So it looks like we have a pretty good variety, maybe a lot of C's, which was you've tried calligraphy compositions before and you're looking forward to learning how to improve them.
We have lots of ideas coming for you. So we're also twin sisters, if you couldn't tell. We do look alike. And we're both new moms. Here's a picture of us with our daughters. And we live 7 houses apart from each other. So we live really close. We see each other almost every day. And over the past few years, we've taught hundreds of students in our in-person workshops. We've also taught over 20,000 students in our online courses. We have over 15 online courses. We've created an online community for people who love calligraphy like you. We've also been featured by incredible brands in our industry.
So why are we teaching this composition workshop today? So like we said, we have been teaching calligraphy for 4 years. We have tons of online courses on like how to do brush pen calligraphy, pointed pen, all the different styles. And we've never taught composition before like this. So those of you who have been around for a while, you've been asking us to teach composition ever since we started teaching courses. Mm-hmm. The truth is we never really felt like we were just magically good at composition or like we were the experts at composition. So we did what we always do. We really did a ton of research and analyzing to figure out what composition is. We looked for the structure, and we are so excited to share with you in today's workshop what we have come up with.
So usually people learn calligraphy not just for the sake of practice pages, but they want to actually make something with it. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is putting your work into a composition. So some of the challenges that you might run into when you're creating a composition is knowing how to arrange the words in a pleasing way, maybe coming up with new ideas to make it less boring, and understanding how to improve, like exactly what things to do to improve your work. So do any of these sound like challenges that you're struggling with? Is there anything that we're missing? Which one of these resonates with you?
And you are not alone if you have those struggles. Those are pretty common across the board. So, but our goals for today are to kind of start to help you overcome those. So we're going to give you lots of ideas and examples to look at. So you definitely want to take notes. Understanding the whys that you can apply to any piece. We are going to give you a sneak peek into our design process. When we showed this on Monday, people loved it. Simple tricks that you can use, and then also how to keep the momentum going beyond today's workshop.
And of course, we also want to give you a little bit of confidence. So, what does composition mean to you? We asked this question to some of our students, and here is a word cloud representing the answer. So these words are the ones that appeared a lot in the responses. The bigger words showed up more often in the responses. Some of the words you might be seeing are layout, arrangement, words, putting things together. And so these are all definitely parts of composition. Most commonly, we see people thinking about the arrangement of the words. That's a big part of it, but it's not the whole story. So we're going to talk what is composition.
So at a really high level, turning your calligraphy practice pages into something that is finished is what we're talking about when it comes to composition.
Yeah, so that's kind of like the uncomplicated definition, the result of taking your practice piece. And so it's also about creating a design through intentional choices. We're going to talk a lot about that today. Just for a visual, you might have a practice page that looks something like this, and then turning it into something finished through the choices that you make. So what are the choices that you can make to create a composition? That's what we're going to show you.
Okay, so this is the pre-work that we had you guys do, and if you didn't get a chance, no worries, we're going to show you lots of examples. But the interesting thing about this is we came up with this phrase and we didn't show you any examples of it beforehand, and it's probably not a quote you've seen before, like you've seen happy birthday hundreds of times, but we had hundreds of people send us their responses of how they made a composition out of that phrase.
Here's just a screenshot of some of the thumbnails of what people sent us. So we got hundreds and hundreds of responses, and we went through all of them and we categorized them and we found the structure, we analyzed them. So that's what we're going to show you now. We're going to look at some of these examples, using these examples to introduce the terminology of composition. And just a quick disclaimer, when we show these examples, we're not saying that someone's is right or wrong or better or worse. We picked the examples that really illustrate the terminology to make it easier to understand.
Okay, so here are just 4 of the many compositions that we received, and let us know in the comments some of the differences that you are noticing between them. So there are some pretty obvious differences. I mean, they all used different color choices. In the top left, actually, she didn't use any color other than black and white. Different lettering styles. So let us know some other things that you notice. So the interesting thing is that they all wrote the same exact phrase, but based on the choices that they used, they look completely different.
Yes, these compositions are all so unique and they're all so different from each other, and we were just amazed at how different all of these compositions looked. And like Jillian just said, it's because of the choices that the artist made that made it look different. So looking at all these, it can be kind of hard to categorize like exactly what's different about them. So that's what we're going to teach you next. These all use the elements of design. So the elements of design are widely recognized elements that are used in visual arts like photography and painting. And so these are the ones that we're going to be looking at: line, shape, space, proportion, color, texture, and then we added one more, number 7, we added lettering style. So these are the elements that we're going to be focusing on for calligraphy compositions. Let's look at them one at a time. So the first element we're going to look at is line. And so one of the most interesting things that we saw in the compositions was how you guys arranged the words on the page. So here you can see Ashley's is split up into 3 lines, and then if we compare that to Shelby's work, Shelby has 1 word per line, and so overall that makes her composition look more tall and skinny. It looks more vertical compared to Ashley's on the left. And so just the lettering styles between the two isn't like that different. The color is the same. Really the main difference is the line breaks, and that has like a huge impact on how these compositions look.
So line break is a choice you can make. Now for some of you, it may not have felt like you were actually making the choice. Maybe you just did it subconsciously, or you like ran out of room on the line and then had to go to the next line. But this is just to show you that you can actually consciously make a decision about how you use line breaks to come up with just a different look overall. So let us know in the comments how you decided to break up your line breaks.
Here's another example. So in this example here, we're using curved lines. So line is also referring to like the baseline of where your letters are resting, and that's what we're talking about when we say line. So the lines don't have to be straight. They can be curved, like this example. Or they can be angled. They don't have to be horizontal. So here on the right, the lines are all straight, the baselines, if you were to draw them in like this. They're all straight lines, not curved like the left, but some of them are angled, and that gives it another completely different look. So if you, in your composition, just wrote your work on a straight baseline, an easy thing that you could try is just making your baseline curved or slanted. And it doesn't even end there. You could also make the baseline more of a wavy shape like this, or something more organic, something that kind of just flows in the shape of the piece.
So even just changing this one element, remember we said there's 7 elements. Right now we're just focusing on line, and you can see all of the possibilities that exist within this one element. Okay, now we're going to look at shape. So here are 2 interesting examples. First, the one on the left is a square composition. So she decided to actually draw a square frame around it to define this piece. Okay, and then contrasting it with this one, a circle. So it's interesting that they both chose to actually draw the frame around the piece. You can also create a shape with more of an implied shape. So for example, using the edge of the paper, this is a square piece of paper, to create a square shape, or using curved baselines, combining them together to create an overall circle shape. So even though on the right a circle is not actually drawn in, it's implied just by the shape of the overall piece. Another way to use shape, I love this example on the left. Overall, it looks like a triangle, and you can see that the letters themselves created the shape, but also some illustrative elements like that triangle there at the top and kind of the flourishing at the bottom made the whole shape as a whole kind of rounded out, well, triangled out.
Yes. And in addition to the piece as a whole, you can also look at individual words. So on the right here, you can see the word world is fitting into that circle shape, and the circle is showing up in the word world. Okay, so next we're talking about space. And in the context of calligraphy, we're looking at largely the space in between your words. So you can see here on the left how the space between the letters and the words have those really pretty embellishments, like little stars, those teardrop shapes that are colored in. So if you can imagine what the piece would look like without those little embellishments, and adding them to fill up that space just changes the look completely. You can also use, on the left, the embellishments are not attached to the letters, but you can add something like flourishes, and those are attached to the letters. Those are extensions of the letters that help fill up that negative space, almost like a puzzle. Okay, another thing we want to talk about in terms of space, again, positive space and negative space. So negative space you can think of almost as like the background. Sometimes you call it white space, but it doesn't always have to be white. But here in this example, the words are actually created by the negative space. So the blobs behind the words are actually, like, you can imagine drawing those and coloring those in, and so you're coloring those in everywhere except where the letters are. So the letters are formed by leaving that space open.
And this one does a really great job of filling the space around the words and making the whole thing feel like kind of like a puzzle, like we talked about on the last one. It's like all of the space is filled up. It doesn't feel like too much. It just feels nice and balanced.
Yes.
You can also leave space open within the words. It's interesting that you can leave, like she decided to take the word open and leave open space in it. So that's another way that you can use space, the element of space, in your composition. Okay, and then here's an example of filling out the outer edges of space with that simple symmetrical frame. And you can be as simple as just some lines, or you can make it as complex as something like curved branches. And this one I want to point out, if she didn't have those curved branches on the side, the piece would look almost like the very first one we looked at that was vertical, where each word is on its own line. But by adding that embellishment to fill the space around it, we're getting a nice rounded look.
Now let's talk about color. So for lettering, usually the default color is black and white. Usually you're writing on a white piece of paper, and most commonly you'll find a black pen to write with. But adding color just adds another dimension. In these examples, you can see different ways that color was used in the letters. So on the left, the color was actually used to make shadows behind the letters. And in the middle example, the letters themselves are, so this was actually created digitally, but you can do a similar effect with something like brush pens or watercolor on paper, where you blend the colors together. And look at how beautiful those letters look compared to the black and white. But black and white does not have to be the default. Like, you don't have to use white paper or a white background. You can actually use black paper. And that allows you to use something like metallic ink, this really pretty gold, shiny ink on top of the black paper.
Another interesting thing I thought about for the examples we received was that color was related to the message. So using blues and greens to relate to the word world, we saw a lot of that in these compositions. So that's another way you can think about how you actually choose which color. So it's choosing where to put the color, but also choosing which colors to use.
Yes. Okay, now let's talk about lettering style. And of course, for calligraphy compositions, this is one of the best parts. It's one of the most fun parts, is experimenting with your lettering style. So here in these examples here, you can see on the left, the artist chose to pair two different styles together with the flourished calligraphy on the bottom and then the plain capital letters that have some shading and some shadows and some serifs together to create variation in the lettering style.
You can also see the right side of the picture how they included the tools that they used. I thought that was interesting.
Yes, because a lot of times the tool that you use directly relates to the style that you're using. So for example, if you're using a brush pen, sometimes that will have more of a modern look compared to if you're using a dip pen or a pointed pen.
And we'll show an example of that soon.
You can also do really creative letters like these examples here with the balloon shapes, and this just looks, it has a completely different look. It looks so festive and happy with all these different colors and lettering styles.
And by the way, even though we are, like right now, we're just focusing on lettering style, you heard her just say color, like none of these elements are
isolated,
thank you. They all of these artists are using line and space and lettering style and color
and shape and everything we've already talked about.
So now we're just kind of showing them in isolation.
Yes, and you can also see some texture here in these pieces, which is the other element. So texture is created, like if you're using watercolor paper, that would have the background texture, or whatever pen you're using can influence the texture as well. So looking more at the lettering style and talking about the tools, so tool and style can go hand in hand, and this is probably, so if you're comfortable with a specific tool or style, for example, on the left we have pointed pen lettering in a copperplate style, versus on the right we have beautiful brush lettering written with a brush pen. It looks more modern. So you have pointed pen versus brush pen calligraphy, and if you are comfortable using a brush pen, you probably will go for that when you're creating a composition. But even just changing the tool completely changes how it looks. So let's keep in mind the pointed pen versus brush pen, and now let's add on a technique. So in this example, Beverly used a pointed pen, but she added on the technique of flourishing. And then Michelle here used brush pen and added flourishing as well. So both of these artists added flourishing as a technique on top of their lettering, but they were still using different tools and they still look different. But flourishing is just an amazing way in your composition. You can see it just adds extra interest. You can imagine what it would look like without the flourishes. On the right, it really fills the space like we talked about before, with filling the space almost like a puzzle. Great way to incorporate into your calligraphy compositions.
And these people make flourishing look so easy, and you can try it and it's a lot of fun. It does take, like, it has like a, almost like the bounce lettering that we're about to talk next. It has a very free, flowy look to it, but sometimes it can be hard to like get it just right.
Yeah, there's actually kind of a lot of structure behind it and how you make the shapes, where you add them.
So I guess what I'm saying is, if you've tried flourishing before and it doesn't look as nice as you were hoping, then don't be discouraged. Keep working on it. It does take a lot of time to get just right.
Yes, these are amazing, everything that we're showing you. So the next technique that you can add on is bounce lettering. So this one does have some flourishing, but we want to look at the bounce lettering. And what that means is, if you look at a straight baseline, you can see that some of the letters are dipping below the baseline, and that's what creates that fun, bouncy look. And just like flourishing, this is not really that easy to do. It does take some practice. It does take some learning the structure. If you've tried it, then you know that it looks super easy and fun and flowy, but it does take some getting used to.
And towards the beginning, when we were talking about baseline, so you might have looked at this if you don't know anything about bounce lettering and think that the baseline itself is like going up and down, but the way that you create bounce lettering is actually by using a straight line, and then just it's a lettering technique, although they kind of go hand in hand, line and lettering.
And you might have one specialty. For example, bounce lettering is Jillian's specialty. I am not nearly as good as Jillian is at bounce lettering.
Oh, thanks.
And then flourishing is what I usually add to my compositions. Okay, so just to review, these are the elements of design that we talked about: line, shape, space, proportion, color, texture, and lettering style. And you can think of these, like we said before, as the choices that you make when you're creating a composition.
Yeah, it's almost like, I like this analogy, it's like the ingredients. Like when you have a recipe, you can combine like flour, sugar, eggs in so many different ways to create different dishes. So these are just kind of the options that you have available to you. So then the question becomes, okay, so you know all of these elements, and some of them you just use by default, like whatever pen you have is going to be the color that it ends up with. But how do you strategically or intentionally put these elements together to create your composition?
So the way that the elements relate to each other is called the principles. So these are the widely recognized principles of design. They might change based on who you ask, but we came up with the most important ones for calligraphy compositions that you can achieve by using the elements in different ways. So the 6 principles are balance, contrast, emphasis, movement, repetition, and unity. So again, instead of just giving you the definition, we're going to look at some great examples of the principles in action.
So the first one we're going to look at is balance. Now this example here, you can see that the piece overall feels very balanced. So if you look at it, it's centered. So bringing up the center line, we can see that even though it's not perfectly symmetrical, there's balance on either side of that middle line.
And the balance is created by those flourishes and by these elements that we talked about, by the lettering style. Another great example of balance over here on the right is Adrian's. And so she did a great job of centering hers along the midline, so left to right, it's very symmetrical. But then if you look at the balance across the horizontal line from top to bottom, even though it's not exactly symmetrical, it's still balanced, and that's because of the weight distribution, which is another way to think of it. And so the bold letters at the bottom are offset by the bold flourish at the top, or the embellishments.
That's a great comment. So someone just said, putting everything together is complicated sometimes. Yes. So we will actually be showing you like our actual design process to show you that like there's a lot that goes into this. So if you're seeing this end result and you're seeing these beautiful compositions that people submitted, yeah, they put a lot of thought into this. Some of these choices, like we've been saying, are just kind of automatic, but yes, it can get complicated, and we're going to show you how to sort of break it down a little bit.
Next principle we're going to talk about is emphasis. So emphasis is drawing attention to a specific word or part of your composition. So we're going to look at 2 ways to emphasize the word world. Here in this example, you can use size or proportion to emphasize the word. It's a lot bigger than the rest of the word, so it stands out. You could also use color or shape. So in this example on the right, the world is visually shown behind the word world, and it's drawing all your attention to that word mostly because of the color, but then it's also emphasized with the shape drawn around it. The next principle is contrast. It's similar to emphasis, a little bit different. So contrast just means using some variety. So opposite things, like 2 opposite colors on the color wheel, like blue and orange, or you could use black and white. Those are opposites. So an example of low contrast would be if you had like a light gray background with medium gray writing on top. That's not a lot of contrast.
And that can be a good choice. So contrast is just thinking about how you're using like opposites.
Yes. Okay, the next principle is movement. So movement is how your eye moves across the page, and instead of just looking kind of static, you have these, like in this beautiful example, you have these amazing flourishes that are guiding your eye around the piece. Another example is this one here with those large, almost circular, rounded flourishes coming off the words that encircle the word, make your eye just move around the page.
And the details of those dots in the top, that was a really great choice to create just some overall movement, make it more dynamic. And then this one was interesting. She used an actual arrow plus the combination of the angled and curved baselines just makes it very interesting and dynamic.
Okay, so we've seen some results, but now we're going to talk about the process. So think about this. How did you approach your composition? Maybe this composition, maybe any composition you've ever made. What is your process behind it? Do you have a process? Do you just kind of go for it? We're going to talk about different ways of approaching this. So the first way you might do it is just go for it.
So just a caveat here, we did say in the pre-work, if you got our email, to just like set a timer and just don't overthink it and do it. So that's a great way to get some ideas on the page. And like if we gave you a 5-hour time block, you may not have ever gotten around to doing it.
Yes. So there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with just going for it, but you might run into a few issues if you don't plan it out. For example, it might end up not being centered if that's what you were going for. You might actually run out of room. I've done this before where I'm writing a line and then I have a long word and I don't have enough room to fit it on the line and it becomes squished together. You might have calligraphy specific troubles like ascenders and descenders clashing. That is a common one. So another approach that you might go with is planning it out first. So a process you might have seen before is to write out your quote, then play around with different arrangements of boxes and shapes, and then try to fit your words into those boxes and erase the outline. So you might have a grid or something like this where you draw the shapes and then try to fit your words in.
And that's actually a really good way to start to think about arrangement and layout. However, there's a couple of things you might run into. So this really works well if you have a 5 to 10 word long quote. But what if you have something really short or something that's like really long? It's kind of hard to, well, we're going to talk about the long quote in a minute. And what if you're not writing a quote? What if you're trying to make a piece out of
like a family name sign or something that is a different type of composition that isn't necessarily a quote? So a struggle is that calligraphy does not always fit neatly into these boxes. You know that in calligraphy you have ascenders and descenders, things that go outside the bounds. So sometimes it doesn't always fit in those blocks. And then this really is word placement. This is layout. This is arranging the words on the page, and that's really only one piece of the puzzle. So when we were looking at all those examples we already showed you, you probably weren't looking at like drawing this grid in your mind, looking at someone's work, unless we pointed things out, like if we drew it for you. So as a viewer, unless you were looking closely at that specifically, you know that there's so much more involved than just how the words are placed in these boxes.
Okay, so let's go back to what I was saying. For if you have a really long quote, we're going to show you a fun little hack here.
Yes.
Okay, so let's say you had this long quote. So it would probably take a long time to put each word in a box and fit it together once, let alone trying like 3 different layouts or more. That would just take a really long time. So our tip is, instead of writing it all out on paper, you can actually type it in a text box, so any word program. So if you type it and put it in a text box, then to experiment with different line breaks, all you have to do is make your text box different sizes by shrinking it this way. So for example, if you wanted to make it tall and skinny, you could shrink the text box to fit that layout, and you can manually add line breaks as well.
So that's a really quick way to test out different line breaks. Another quick hack that you can do if you type this out is use the alignment tool to automatically center it. And that's a super helpful hack. This obviously is not written in calligraphy, but the size of the words and the relationship of the words would be the same, so you know what the starting point should be so that it ends up being centered.
And I actually did use this hack when I was creating this piece, so that I could kind of tell, like, it's almost like a shortcut so that I knew what the layout should generally look like, so that I could plan it out a little bit easier. You can also use this if you have a bunch of envelopes to address. If you have the addresses already typed out and centered, then you can have it next to you while you're working on it, so that you know, like, okay, well, the address is this much longer than the words. It just makes it a lot easier. So I hope I love this hack too. It's just so simple. Like, you can use, and we have tons of hack ideas like this, of just how, like, the actual mechanics of how to create centering.
Yeah, especially if something like composition doesn't come super intuitively to you and you need some structure like we have figured out, these hacks are really helpful. Okay, let's talk about the actual design process now. We've talked a little bit about how you can approach it, so we're going to peek inside Jillian's process.
Okay, so I decided to write this phrase: creating a composition is all about your choices. Okay, so this is my just quick first draft. I was trying to see if I could get it centered. You can see it's not actually that centered. I was just getting the words down on the page quickly, sketched out, and I'm not even using guidelines here. It's just a blank piece of paper. Okay, so then I was starting to evaluate a general sense of what it could look like. I decided to make the first word and the last word with thicker downstrokes and make it more of a script style, and then use a different style for the word composition. You can see a note on the left. I also said, maybe I can make this a different color. So then in my next draft, I decided to go with pink for composition. Okay, there's a couple other things as I was going that I'm kind of pointing out here. So The word A under creating, I felt like was kind of a weird placement. And then it seemed like there was a lot of empty space because of the G descender, like the tail of the G. I was trying to figure out how I could make that work. Then I also had the idea of maybe I could curve the word creating instead of having it straight. So I just did another very quick sketch of what that could look like here on the right, not even using the brush pen, just like quickly sketching it out.
So you can see even just in this process, not every step has to be perfect as you're making a draft.
Yes. Okay, so then with that done, I rewrote creating curved. I wrote composition in pink, tried a couple of different layouts here. And then this is starting to refine it. So going from sketching to refining. So I got to this step and was starting to evaluate. It just looked a little weird that there was only pink in the middle. It didn't feel quite balanced or unified. So then I decided to add more pink around it. Instead of making other words pink, I decided to fill up some of the space with embellishments.
And then I remember you showed it to me at this point, and I was like, whoa, that looks amazing. And you might have kept going and adding things.
So yeah, I mean, there's like, at some point you have to decide that you're done. But yeah, I could definitely have kept going on this.
Yes, so it probably helped to hear from someone else that like, wow, that looks really good. And I remember being impressed. And so these are the things that you're seeing that you can like point out, the things that we've been talking about and showing you in everyone's compositions that were submitted. We can point out, here's color. Here's how you create movement. Here are the lettering styles. This is how it looks balanced. Here's how we're filling the space. Here's the shapes that we're creating. Here's how we create emphasis. So all of these things are the elements and principles in action. And the cool thing is that you can apply these elements and principles to any piece. So I wrote the same quote, and I wrote it in a completely different way, but you can still point out the same elements. You can still see the styles, the movement, the balance, all that kind of stuff. So that really is what composition is using the elements and principles to create your message and to guide the viewer's experience.
And because there are so many different ways to use the elements, like you can see how she used the light blue behind the words, like that was a really interesting compositional choice. And it just like kind of brings the whole thing together.
And also like little details, like those tiny little circles that I added to the flourishes, or even I also used some movement. I added the light blue, just framing some of the flourishes, and without those details it just looked a little bit kind of unfinished, but adding those, even though they're very, very simple, like 5 tiny circles, just made a difference, made it more put together.
One more thing, when we got the pre-work assignments back from people, a lot of people said like, mine looks boring. Maybe it was just the words and the lettering on the page with no other like embellishments. And so like she just said, just having those tiny little things just makes it a little bit less. So I would never say that someone's work looks boring, but if you personally feel like yours needs more, then it doesn't have to be a huge shift from your normal style. You can add those small details. It's just like knowing what details you can add. So here's what you don't usually see. You see the end result, but you never see, unless someone shares it with you, you never see the process behind it. And here's just all the pages I had out on my floor. You can see that each iteration here doesn't and shouldn't look perfect. I mean, as you get towards the end, they're probably going to look better because you're starting to reach the place of knowing when it's done, but even that can be hard. So you're also not seeing how the elements evolved over time. Like at the beginning, I didn't even know that I was going to use pink, but it wasn't a random, like I didn't just randomly all of a sudden have pink. It was like, okay, now I'm going to think about how I can incorporate some color.
And then you're also using the principles to make decisions along the way, so you wouldn't have known unless Jillian explained and showed you that the reason she did certain things was to add more balance. You might be making those choices subconsciously as you go. And then also, like we talked about, sometimes you have to just decide when is it done. You could always keep making changes, but at some point it's good enough.
And sometimes showing someone else, like, or posting your work in a community or showing like an actual person and showing it to them, you might think that you need to keep going, but if they give you some feedback.
Yeah, like I thought I had to keep changing mine, and then I showed it to you and you said it was good. So I felt, oh, it is good. A few more tips. This is one of the draft pages that I went through on the right in pencil. I had a few more pages, but you can see I started in pencil. I didn't even use a pen. Don't stress about your first draft. So you can use pencil, you can use tracing paper or a light pad. If you do digital calligraphy, you can do this digitally, but on paper, you can use tracing paper to move things around and try different layouts. Lots and lots of drafts. And then adding tiny details makes a difference, like we just talked about with those little circles. Another tip that I just wanted to mention, because we haven't really talked about it, is that committing to improving your calligraphy is automatically going to improve all of your compositions.
Or just the flip side, if you feel like your calligraphy, if you're really confident in your calligraphy, then we've talked about adding multiple lettering styles, like using those, you can see in this example here, those capital sans serif letters. So sometimes that's a struggle for people, is like, okay, well, my regular print handwriting doesn't look good. So if you really work on just that element of it, it can elevate the whole piece.
And also, it does not have to look like someone else's. You saw all those awesome examples. Same quote, written completely different ways. You can develop your own style. Okay, we talked a lot of things in this workshop. Let's talk about how to keep the momentum going. So one thing you can do is write a different phrase or the same phrase, but use new design choices. So think about some of the things we showed you today, the color, the style, the shape, different ways of adding embellishments, and just try some new things that you wouldn't normally do. And then you can also, now that you know some ideas of how to evaluate your composition that we talked about, like balance, you can evaluate it and use those elements and principles to help improve it. So just going back to this example that Jillian was showing, at this point in her process, everything looked, it was centered, it was like the visual weight distribution was pretty good, but it still didn't feel quite balanced. And so the way that she did that, if you can remember, was adding color. So she was looking at the principle of balance, and then she decided to add color to create that balance. So combining balance with color, this is what it resulted in. Okay?
And kind of like a byproduct was it also added some more movement to the piece. As I added color to balance it out,
it also added unity, like it kind of brought it all together.
Yeah. So it's hard to talk about these in isolation, but if we were to, then you can see here, just to summarize, using color to create balance, or creating balance using color. And so there's actually so many ways that you could do this. I just went through the pre-work and wrote down some ideas of how you guys used color in your pieces. You can use dots, you can use like the background color, wavy lines, watercolor splatters, frames, negative space. There's so many ways you can use just the element of color to create balance.
You can also use color to create, like we just talked about, to create movement with those wavy lines, to fill the space, to create emphasis if you're making one word emphasize with color. So you can actually use color to create any of the principles. We showed you how to use color to create balance, but you can use color to create any of these other principles that we showed you. And the way that this gets really interesting is that you can actually use all of the elements to create all of the principles.
Yes, this is an awesome summary chart of just like how much goes into composition. And the fact that each of these little squares has so many different ways of doing it, it's almost like you can think of it as becoming 3D of how, of like the world of possibilities. So to summarize, every choice opens up an entire world of possibilities. You guys have seen this phrase over and over throughout the presentation, and this really brings it all together.
So we hope that all of those examples were really helpful, gave you some ideas of what to do in your pieces. But if you're wondering maybe how to apply all of these concepts to a different piece that we didn't just showed you, or if you just feel like you need some more structure, just imagine if you had everything you needed to create your own calligraphy compositions from scratch. And we are so excited that we are teaching all of this in our brand new online course, which is called Composition for Calligraphers.
Yes, we're so excited about this course. It will be coming on July 9th, which is next Friday. And here's what we're teaching inside the course. So it includes short but really detailed video lessons on each of the elements and principles. So today we kind of gave you an overview of a few of them, but we go into each of them, each of, 7 elements and 6 principles in detail. We also have every single one summarized in an idea bank PDF. So like all of the ideas that we have for line and color each have a page that give you a great summary. And this is great so that you can quickly refer to them for every single element when you're working on your own composition.
Yeah, so when I'm making my compositions now, this is what I think about. I used to feel so stuck, but now all I do is look at our idea bank that we developed, and I'm like, oh, this is super easy. Like even adding little embellishments or changing where I add the color, so easy.
Yes. There are practical videos on the mechanics of like how to actually do it. So you saw, okay, you can make your line straight, you can make it curved, you can make it angled, but like how to actually use a light pad and tracing paper and guide sheets and a compass and like how to get things centered. We showed you the one tip of using a text box, but like,
so it's lots of tips like that where it's really practical and the actual how to do it. It's one thing to see the result, but to actually do it yourself is completely different.
We have guided exercises throughout to apply what you're learning. So we thought a lot about the structure of the course and how to make it really actionable. So the guided exercises, it's like we teach something and then you apply it. We teach something and then you apply it so that you can really see some quick wins. Even if you just go through like the first 5 lessons, you'll get so much out of it.
And you'll try so many compositions that you never would have tried before. That really is part of the key, is trying new things and practicing.
Yes.
That's how you're going to improve. Plus, not only all that, you also get quote ideas. I know the hardest, most annoying thing is sitting down, ready to write, and you don't know what to write. We'll also give you a step-by-step flow chart of not like a rigid process to follow, but something that will help you go through and make these iterations.
Like go from blank page and an idea to like final composition.
Yes. And then checklists to evaluate your work following some of those ideas that we showed you of like, okay, is this balanced? How do you know if it's not balanced, and how do you fix it?
So we created this course to give you everything you need to create your own calligraphy compositions from scratch that you are proud of. And everything included in the course is going to be a $97 value, but we are going to show you how you can get it for less than that.
And again, this is being released on July 9th. We're really excited about it. So we are even more excited that this course is being added to Loveleigh University. So Loveleigh University is our calligraphy membership. We're going to show you what's inside, but Composition for Calligraphers is our brand new course that is automatically added to your Loveleigh University membership. If you're already a member, you will see it there on July 9th.
Yay! Okay, so in case you're not familiar, Loveleigh University comes with our whole library of online courses, so it's of course going to include this new one, but it also includes all of our stages of courses that start from the very basics of calligraphy, how to write the letters, words. Then we move into how to use a brush pen, how to use a pointed pen. These are very detailed courses. We talk about style, bounce lettering, how to do flourishing, our advanced style study bootcamp course, plus a ton of other bonus courses. And like all of these courses, including the composition one, are available separately. And if you were to buy all of them, it would be over $1,000 value, but it will not cost that much to access it, I promise.
So we just wanted to show you, one of our students said that she started LU recently and is surprised how much she learned just from the first 2 stages that she never learned anywhere else, and that you will love it too. So in addition to all those courses, we also have an amazing community. Here on the right, you can see a screenshot of just, I grabbed comments from one person's post. They posted one picture and got all of this awesome feedback. So it's a place to share your work, ask questions, get feedback. We have 3 amazing coaches.
I see at least Adrian is here. She's amazing. She gives such encouraging and helpful feedback.
To really help you improve too.
Yes, plus all of your peers are in the community, so it's a great way, like if you enjoyed today seeing how everyone wrote that pre-work differently, it's a great way to see what other people are working on too.
We also just added a buddy program so that you can be paired with someone to have as your buddy as you go through the courses. So just want to show you a couple things from the university. We had our student Janet posted her work and she got tons of amazing feedback on it and said that the feedback is appreciated. Your kind observations have given me confidence, and your suggestions and wisdom have given me a light bulb moment. So that's just like from one post getting feedback on her work gave her so much confidence and wisdom.
Plus, we also have a fun opportunity twice a month to hang out with us on Zoom calls. So twice a month, you'll get a Zoom call with your fellow members and with us. So if any new LU member is here, you'll notice that we did add a call. It used to be just once a month, and now we're doing it twice a month.
So on these calls, we do live video critiques. You can also ask us questions and just hang out for an hour twice a month. The value of this alone is $97 a month, just for these 2 Zoom calls. So just to recap everything that is included, in Loveleigh University, you get over 15 of our online courses, including our new composition course that's coming out July 9th. Access to future courses that we add. So this one, we automatically add. Anyone that's an LU automatically gets this one. So in the future, we do have some in mind for later this year. You automatically get those added to your membership. We have the private community. We have the Zoom calls. So All of this is well over $1,000 of value, but we're not going to make you pay that much for it up front. This is a membership, and it's only, right now, it's $67 a month. But until July 9th, we're actually having a sale, and it's only $47 a month. So if you remember just the composition course itself, $97 value, you get all of this for just $47 a month on sale through July 9th.
I see some people, some LU members here who are saying it's worth it. It's an amazing place. Thank you guys so much for being here. And yes, we love our community. And we really created the university to be like the best place to learn calligraphy and have everything that you need. So I just put the link in the comments of how and where, or of where you can sign up at loveleiguniversity.com.
We're going to show you some more student progress pictures and things to get you inspired to know if this is the right fit for you. So if you want to join, if you're ready to join right now, you can go to loveleiguniversity.com. We're also going to keep showing you some other things and answering some questions. So one of our students, Karen, she posted her before piece here, and it was really good. And after just 2 months, she improved so much. And then 2 months later, she was creating these gorgeous thank you cards with her skills that she was giving to people. They loved them. So we're just really proud of Karen and her progress in such a short amount of time. Another student, Emily, so her before piece, you might think, wow, that's not a before piece, that looks really good. And it does, it looks amazing. She already had some experience. So this isn't just for complete beginners. If you have a little bit of experience, you're more than welcome. You will learn. And so she focused on brush lettering and flourishing, and just look at this awesome piece that she created with flourishes. We're so proud of Emily. Another student here, Pallamina, posted her before piece, and we just saw so much progress in such a short amount of time. I think this was like in like a week or two. She went from the left to the right, so much improvement in her consistency, her letter forms, her shading, all of it. Another amazing transformation in a short amount of time was our student Pam. She had her before piece here, and then really worked on her calligraphy. So we start with the basics of, we just start with faux calligraphy so that you can master the letter forms, which you can see here on the right. She really improved on her letter forms. I feel like these examples are never ending. Our awesome coach, Adrian. So her first piece looked great, but she just improved so much. She really focused on improving her style and developing her own style. We have a very, very in-depth course called Style Study Bootcamp that's stage 5 of our Loveleigh University program, and she spent a lot of time analyzing. We showed her how to analyze style and make her own unique style.
And look how awesome that looks.
Yes, amazing. And you can actually, once you learn calligraphy, there's so much you can do with it. Like one of our students, Ash, she has this, she was selling her work at like a market. And she also had this whole list of things that she was able to accomplish. She had 3 orders for her signs, and then all these other things that you can read. So once you learn calligraphy, you can really apply your skills and do so much with it. You can create gifts for people, you can sell your work, so much you can do with it. So just to recap everything again of what's actually included, you get all of our online courses for calligraphy, our brand new course that we just announced, access to future courses, the private community, the monthly Zoom calls. All of that is well over $1,000 in value. You can get it now for just $47, and that's for the monthly membership.
Yes, we're so excited to be able to offer this. This is like the culmination of all of the online courses that we've been creating over the past 4 years, getting tons of students going through them, seeing amazing results. Plus, I just love the community aspect of Loveleigh University, being able to meet, like there's Nita and so many people here that are in the community as well. So feel free to put any questions you have in the comment box. I've answered a couple of them replying here, but we can also answer some of them live. So this is a good question. I use Procreate, which is an iPad program. Would the university still work for me? So we actually don't have any of our iPad courses in the university. We do have those separately. If you want to send me an email, hello@lovelyloops.com, we can help you figure out like specifically what you'd be interested in working on. So if your goal is to actually improve your calligraphy, then the skills that you learn in the university on paper can be transferred to iPad. But if you want to learn like how to use the Procreate app to create cool effects and stuff like that, then that's where our Procreate courses would come in.
Okay, so we just wanted to answer this question.
Sorry, really quick, Adrian, that's a great comment. You can take the courses as many times as you want. Yes, so while you're a member of LU, you can take the courses over and over, and people always say that they get something new each time. Okay, go ahead.
Just really quick, we did want to mention that if you only want the course, I know some of you signed up just to learn composition, you can actually get just the course by itself. It is also on sale until July 9th, but just to remind you, if you want to get the course plus everything else, even if you just wanted to try it out for a month, you can cancel at any time. Then join Loveleigh University. It's the same amount, but you're going to get so much more. You're going to see the benefit of having a community. So even if you are just working on composition this month, you can post your work, you can share it with everyone, we can give you feedback on it. You can check out the other courses. So one of the benefits is that you have all these courses, and I'm going to answer that next. What will I learn? So here's a diagram that we made. It's our roadmap. So all of the courses that are included, we put in a very specific order to go through. So if you want to learn everything, this is the order that you will go through the courses in. If you just want to learn one or two things, maybe you just want to practice flourishing, the benefit of joining this is that you can just try out different parts of different courses, but we do recommend following the roadmap if you are the type of person that wants to learn everything step by step. So even if you are only working on one course each month, you would still get much more than your money's worth. And you can go through as many courses as you can. It kind of depends. Some people want to know, like, how long will it take to go through all of these? It really does depend on how much time you have to commit to it. But even if you only did, like, some of the first stage is quicker, you might get through those in a week or two. But some of the later stages, the courses are very, very detailed. And so you can really spend as much time on it as you want. Okay, what do the lessons look like? So each course, each of like those little boxes that we just brought up on the screen looked like one little rectangle, but each of those is representing an in-depth course. All of the courses have step-by-step video lessons and PDFs that you can print out to practice. Our PDFs are extremely detailed. So just to look inside a few of the courses, just to show you like how much detail we teach in, here are screenshots from a few of them. The top left is our pointed pen course. Top right is our brush lettering course. Then we also have bounce lettering and flourishing. So we talked a little bit before about these techniques and how they might look like flowy and easy, but there's really so much structure behind it. And by the way, in the flourishing course, there are 3 entire lessons about flourishing composition. So if that's something that you're interested in, you're going to want to check out the flourishing course. And just to kind of remind you about our teaching style, a lot of people like learning calligraphy from us specifically because of our teaching style. We take these complex topics and break it down and teach it in such a simple way. Okay, then the other question that we wanted to answer, since we know that you guys are excited to join, is how do I sign up? And so if you go to loveleiguniversity.com, you'll be able to click on one of the purple buttons that says join. It will actually right now, just a little secret, give you an extra discount if you choose our quarterly option, which is getting 3 months at a time. That'll give you an additional 10%. But if you choose monthly, normally it's $67 a month, but right now until July 9th, it's on sale for $47. So if you click that link, the discount will automatically be applied. Unfortunately, it does add tax. And that's how you will join the monthly membership. One of our students, Jen, said that she tried learning from YouTube, bought so many books, and she just loved the way that we teach, and she's very thankful that she invested in these courses.
So just want to point out that if you purchase it at this $47 rate, that it will stay at that rate. So even though the price is going up to $67, yes, yours won't go up. It's just like that's what the price would go up.
Yeah, so you kind of like lock in your rate. So if you join now at $47, your price will not increase. But if you join after July 9th, then it will be $67 a month.
Okay, so we're getting a couple of questions live here. So just to quickly answer them. Okay, this is a good question. In which stage will the new composition course be?
So we actually kind of thought about that, and we were going to put it in stage 5 because it really is a culmination of everything you learn. But we decided to make it more of like a bonus, because you can do composition no matter what stage you're at. Even if you're just at the beginning, you can still learn about composition and practice. And as your calligraphy improves as you go through the stages, then your compositions will also improve as you add on these techniques.
Yeah, so there was a similar question, like, does the composition course teach flourishing? So we have a flourishing course that will teach you like everything you want to know about flourishing, and then as you build those skills, you can incorporate it into your composition pieces.
Yes, so this new composition course is a bonus to everything that's already inside of Loveleigh University to teach you calligraphy. This is just bringing it all together and teaching you how to make compositions.
Okay, and then a couple of questions about the wedding calligraphy course that's included. So that will teach you how to apply your calligraphy to different surfaces besides paper, such as wood, glass, mirrors, and yes, we show you like the supplies you need and example projects of actually writing on glass so that you can create some pieces for yourself. And then, let's see, so how long does this composition course, I think the question is how long was the composition course on sale? So because the course is being released on July 9th, which is in about a week, next Friday, that's when this pre-sale period is happening. So after next Friday, then the price will go up. So you'll want to sign up before then, either for the course or for Loveleigh University. And if you couldn't tell, we recommend joining Loveleigh University because you get everything else as long as you're a member.
Yes. So, and then just to clarify, all of the lessons inside Loveleigh University are pre-recorded, so you don't have to attend them live like this workshop. They're split up inside the course so that you get access to all the videos and you can watch them whenever you have time. You can rewatch the videos, you can refer back to them.
Yes. Okay, so I know that was a lot. This page, loveleiguniversity.com, does explain more about the membership program and answers some questions that you might be having about like what each course specifically teaches. But if you have any other questions while we are live here, we would be more than happy to help answer them. Just a reminder, after July 9th, the price will be going up, so now is a really good time to join if you're interested. And we really appreciate you all being here. We hope you enjoyed the workshop and learned a lot. And of course, if any questions come up after we're done here, which we're going to wrap up in a couple minutes, then you can send us an email and we'd be more than happy to help.
Yeah, so thank you again all for being here. Hope that you learned about composition. If you do try out some new ideas after this workshop, then we'd love to see. You can post on Instagram and tag us at Lovely Loops. We do have a Facebook group, or if you end up joining LU, then please post your work in the community so that we can personally give you some feedback on it and some encouragement. So yeah, what else? Yeah, we'll just wait another minute to see if any other questions come on live. Otherwise, once again, thank you for joining us. And thanks to everyone who submitted some pre-work for this workshop. It was so much fun to look at all the different examples and see how you guys all chose to make your compositions. All right, everyone. Thanks again for joining.